You're listening to the Departure Lounge podcast with your hosts, Tom Whittle and Ger Dooley. Your ticket to the home of aviation podcasts.
No problem at all, Tom. I'm looking forward to it. You well? Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
My microphone wasn't unplugged then. No one can hear me. Welcome everybody. No one could hear me because my microphone was muted for some reason.
All right.
But yeah, we'll go again. Hello everyone. Did you miss us? We weren't here last week. We are back with episode 16, and Ian Hartley is here with us, filling in for Ger this evening, who is not here because of some recent bad news that he had with a death of a close friend. So we're sending our thoughts and condolences to him, and of course the family as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And hopefully you'll be alright, and hopefully you'll be back with us again sort of next week for episode 17. But yes, I am well. I don't know if that picked up before, but yes, I'm very well, refreshed after last week's break. So it's all good. A couple of things have happened, but we'll get into that with the housekeeping. So as you can see, if you're watching live and you've noticed a little thing in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, we are now on Spotify. So this happened whilst we were away for the week or 2 weeks, but yeah, we are now on Spotify. So if you wish to listen to us on the go after the episodes are aired, all 15 are on Spotify at the moment. This episode will be on there from tomorrow, but if you wish to listen to us on the go, click the link in the description, give it a follow, and you can take us pretty much wherever you go. At the same time, in the description of not just the YouTube feed, but also will be in the Spotify program as well, our social medias. If you wish to give us a follow on those, they are there. Also a tip of the hat to airspotters.com, who continue to support the channel and continue to bring out some fantastic models, which are definitely worth checking out. So definitely go check them out. Link is in the description of both what will be the Spotify feed and this one. And of course, as always, if you wish to be a guest on the podcast, I should say, all you got to do is drop us a message, and we will get you on as soon as we can. We're now taking bookings for September, so if you want to come on in September and you've got a free Sunday, give us a shout, and we'll get you on. But that, I believe, is pretty much it for the housekeeping. So yes, it's an absolutely scorching day out today, as it has been pretty much all weekend. So we'll try and get through this and survive the heat. I don't know if we're going to be able to, but we will certainly try. But yes, let's get on to the first segment of tonight's podcast, which is recapping the news.
This week in aviation.
I don't know if that all played, but we'll go from there anyway. So first up in the news, it was announced last week that Bristol Airport is getting a very special visitor next year in the form of Air Seychelles. Now they are going to be operating from Bristol. 3 flights, I believe, in April to coincide with the Easter holidays and half term. These will be to Dubai and, of course, to Male in the Seychelles. I believe that's in the Seychelles. Yes. So this is an interesting move from Air Seychelles. Ian, a question to you: would you want to sit 6-7 hours on an A320neo, which is what they'll be using?
Well, I've actually looked at their particular layout of their cabins, and it doesn't look too bad, to be quite honest. I know they've been given a little bit of extra leg room, haven't they? And you can actually book. You can because the layout isn't the standard layout is 3-3, isn't it? So you can actually, if you're going with your girlfriend or your wife or whatever, you can actually book the third seat as well, can't you?
You can
as a ghost seat or whatever they want to call it, but you can book the third seat, and it doesn't look uncomfortable because the seats do look quite comfortable, to be quite honest, and they've also got a business class as well, haven't they, which looks fantastic. It's a long time on a 320, isn't it? Did you say it was a 321? I think you said, didn't you?
A 320neo.
A 320neo.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. Maybe they could use something different, or maybe a bit of extra leg room in it. I don't know, but I know they are a little bit more generous with the leg room than what your normal low-cost airlines are. So I don't think it'd be too bad, Tom. I'll be quite honest with you. I'd do it.
Yeah, I think I would as well, even if it is on on the likes of the A320neo sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's not.
I mean, you're going to Seychelles, aren't you?
Yeah. So it's not like a direct route. So what will happen is basically how they will run it is you'll take off from Bristol.
Yeah.
And then you will go to Dubai, but not the international airport. I think it's what's the name of it? The name escapes me. Makhoun or something.
It's something like that.
Maktoum,
There
you go.
something like
Dubai
that.
Al Maktoum Airport, and then you'll go from there off to obviously Male, that's in the Seychelles.
Yeah.
And then from there you will then go to sort of coming back on yourself. There'll be a stop in Dubai, and then back to Bristol. These 3 flights, excuse me, are due to take place on the 8th of April, 18th of April, and 28th of April in 2022. And they will be departing Bristol in the evening. So you've got one at 8 o'clock, and then the other 2 are at 9 p.m. An interesting choice, especially for a lot of people that want to sort of go and get them. It's going to be sort of, for myself, it's a 2-hour drive to get to Bristol. So I think an overnight stay is needed.
Definitely.
Yeah, just to be able to get them. But like you said with the cabin and stuff, with the business class on them, looks, I think it makes the experience a lot better than what, if you were to go, I've got to spend 6-7 hours on an A320 Neo, and then you see kind of how much room you get, what the actual cabin itself is like, then you can't really sort of go wrong with it. So I'm looking forward to seeing this. That's the main thing is that from a spotter's point of view, I'm looking forward to this.
The plane's absolutely beautiful. It really, really is.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this because it's something different, and it's nice to see, because I've seen them at Heathrow, but then now they're expanding for 3 flights anyway. But they may just be testing the waters, and if it works for them, and then they see the demand, then it might become a regular thing, which would be great for the people of Bristol as well, because they don't have to travel so far just to get to these luxurious locations.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting choice, actually, Bristol. I don't know why they've chose Bristol, to be quite honest. Obviously, I suppose operating costs are going to be a lot lower, but the demand for air travel, this summer is not going to be as it was 2 years ago, for instance, and even next summer, I don't think demand for air travel is going to be as intense as what it was a couple of years ago, where Heathrow Airport, for instance, was running at 99% of capacity or whatever, and even likes of Gatwick and Stansted or something like that. So I would imagine that the operating costs of landing in a place like that, just for them to get the numbers back up, would have been reduced a little bit to entice airliners to come in. But I'm surprised they chose Bristol over, say, Gatwick or Stansted or even Luton or something like that, to be quite honest.
Yeah, it is like I said, they may just be testing the waters, and it is a good move for them. So, fingers crossed that sort of leads to something sort of better in the long run, and maybe they become a permanent sort of fixture. But we will see. Yeah.
It is a really, really good looking plane, and I say, the cabin. I'm just looking at a picture now. I've got the cabin up in front of me now. The cabins look, they look spacious. I mean, we've all been crammed into an EasyJet flight going to Spain and stuff like that, and I think I'd rather spend 6 hours sat in there than 2.5 hours sat in an EasyJet. Thing. To be quite honest, it looks a lot more comfortable.
It's a very good point on there. Let me just.
And the airport's Al Maktoum, just out of interest, in Dubai.
Al Maktoum, that's the one.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the thumb. Yeah, okay. All right. I'm just looking at the live thing. The thumbnail is completely different to what I've got saved, but that's fine. I'll sort that out afterwards. But yes, moving on to the second news item, and it's also news that broke that Aer Lingus, who had the Airbus A350 on order, have now cancelled their order completely. So the airline will no longer be receiving any A350s, which is a bit of a shame, really, because they did have some on order, and then they were some of the orders were transferred over to. So they had 4 of their. I think they ordered 9, and 4 of them went to Iberia because they're part of the IAG group. So 4 of them originally went over to Iberia, and now Aer Lingus have cancelled the rest, and they've transferred them onto an unknown or an unidentified customer, and they've had the order for the A350 on the book since 2008. So, it's a shame that this has happened. I mean, they could replace if they had kept them, they could have replaced the older A330s that have been in the fleet for a long, long time. But now it's not to be.
No, it's a massive shame, isn't it? Because it would have been nice to see an A350 with Aer Lingus' livery, but I mean, the decision's got to be a purely business-based decision, and are they opting for an A321 XLR instead?
I believe
I think they're moving forward with them, aren't they? Rather than going for the 350. So I think you're going to get sort of a similar kind of range, I would imagine, but I don't think you're going to get the capacity, are you? You're not going to get as many bums on seats, are you, in a 321 as what you are in a 350, obviously. But I don't know. It depends. I mean, which ways is Aer Lingus' business going? Are they going to want to do more, longer range stuff? I think what's the best they do now? Is it flying to East Coast or something at States?
I think so. I mean, like we mentioned on a couple of episodes ago, they were sort of looking. I mean, considering they're expanding with their UK division now, and sort of doing some routes from there. And Barbados was mentioned. I've not actually seen the routes or anything, but to me it would be it's a shame because I think they would fit in really, really well with Aer Lingus. It's just a shame it's not happening.
Yeah, it's not going to be, is it? But did I read somewhere that they're not doing the Manchester to America flights anymore? Have I read that somewhere? Or is that somewhere which just I don't know.
Well, I mean, I've not seen anything news-wise on that.
No, it might be something totally different. I might have just might be something totally different where I've read something else and just put it to Aer Lingus or something like that. Yeah, I might be totally wrong on that one. But it is a big shame. But I don't know. I mean, what are, I mean, like you say, the part of the IAG group or something.
IAG,
so
IAG.
Iberia. If I don't know, because you could still fly an Aer Lingus smaller plane from UK mainland to. I think Madrid's going to be one of the main African Asian hubs for Iberia, isn't it? So the same company can still service sort of that area, that part of the world, without actually using an Aer Lingus jet. But obviously, the money's still going into that bank account, isn't it? So
yeah,
it's going to be purely business based, isn't it? Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, it is a shame. It really is.
But yeah, it's I mean, whether they now go for the 330 Neo as a different option, or maybe AIG will just sit there and go, we're not going to replace anything at the moment. Maybe it's a cash flow problem as well, just because of the recent sort of pandemic and stuff. So that could also be another sort of issue or another reason as to why that's the case.
I don't know. I'm just sort of glancing my eyes over the news report with 14 Airbus A330s and 8 A321 Neos LRs already in the fleet and 6 A321 XLRs on order. They seem to think that they seem to have got their the post-pandemic sort of long-haul routes sorted with the equipment they've already got and the 321 XLRs on order.
Might just be everything that they need. That's the thing as well.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's unnecessary, isn't it? I wouldn't like to have to pay for an A350, to be quite honest.
Yeah, and then you got to fill that as well. So that's the other thing as well.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But let's move on to our second to last news item for this week, and of course, JetBlue, who we have mentioned many times on the podcast here. And with their sort of potential, forthcoming route to Heathrow, conducted some test flights over to Heathrow this week. Or they call them proving flights, ahead of the launch of the service to Heathrow in August. The aircraft landed. The first one, I should say. The first one came in on Tuesday this week, Tuesday the 13th of July, and it came in at just after 7:30 in the morning, following a flight of 6 hours and 10 minutes from New York's JFK. So, I've seen a lot of people put pictures up of like the Heathrow background and a picture of the JetBlue A321, and I'm just sitting there like, it's going to take a long time for me to get used to the fact that JetBlue are now sort of coming into Heathrow and having JetBlue as part of the scenery. Yeah,
it's like you said, they're only doing these proving flights at the moment, aren't they? And they're going to start the scheduled flights. Did you say later on this year? August, actually. Isn't it?
Yeah, not 2 weeks time, I think. At some point in August.
I know it actually took off an hour and a half late as well, didn't it? So so it would have been in Heathrow a lot earlier. It would have been in at like 6 o'clock, wouldn't it, if it would have been on time? Is it not just another are they? I don't really know much about JetBlue. Are they sort of a premium carrier like British Airways are they just like a low-cost carrier?
Low cost. They are similar to Southwest, who we spoke about last week. Yeah, so they're low cost, and they are sort of like we mentioned a while ago. Sorry, not a while ago. Where did we mention it? We mentioned it maybe a few episodes back. The CEO saw the transatlantic prices for tickets as ludicrous, So this is another option for for people flying from the UK to America for sort of a cheaper price on one of their A321 long range aircraft. So I hope it works out for them.
There's going to be a market for it, isn't there?
Yeah, there's definitely. A lot of people go to America, and a lot of people like when one classic example I think is Norwegian, when they started that up from Gatwick to New York and stuff, and they did it for a really good, I think it was a really low price. I can't think what it was, but it was a low price. And then, you could travel on the Dreamliner over to America, and you can get around paying the British Airways prices, the American Airlines prices, all the United Airlines prices, Delta and etc. etc. So I think this will prove to be very popular as long as everything is right and everything it goes well for them as well, which I think it will. I can't see it not working for them.
No. I mean, I think the only downside to it is when we were talking about flying to Dubai for 6 hours. I'd still think I'd rather fly to Dubai on an Air Seychelles plane than fly to the States on a JetBlue. If it's a low cost carrier, I can't see this extra legroom and things like that inside a JetBlue, plane. They're going to want to cram them in, aren't they, to fill that up and to make it cost effective, aren't they? But on the plus side, having a cheap carrier flying over to the States might start a bit of a price war with likes of American Airlines and BA and people like that. So it might just, command lower prices. It might just bring prices down a bit with these other carriers.
It could be an eye-opener to the airlines to go, oh, right, well, if they can offer it for this, we'll try and bring people in for this sort of thing, and maybe even think of it as a better, a better sort of experience, or they claim that they have a better experience than JetBlue sort of thing, so they'll go, right, we'll offer it for this price and hope for the best sort of thing.
That's it, and I think it's going to be with JetBlue. It'll be a flight-only package, won't it? I mean, you're not going to get like a Virgin Atlantic or even BA where you can get a full holiday package. It's just going to be a flight-only, isn't it?
Yeah.
With JetBlue, so I imagine that they will. I mean, I'd like to hope it sort of drags the prices down a little bit and makes everything a bit more affordable, and hopefully more people will start travelling, and it might just boost everything in long term. So so it's definitely a good idea bringing somebody like that, especially into Heathrow as well. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's really really good. That.
Let's hope so. Anyway, and very quickly to our last article now, way back when we first mentioned about this must have been the episode. Which episode was it? I'm just going to go back. It was during the episode 6. It was. So we're going back good while. We spoke about the Embraer E2 project with the E195s, E190s, and E175s. There was a carrier who had ordered the E2, but no one sort of knew who it was. There was an undisclosed customer that had ordered 30 of the E195 E2s. This was revealed this week to be Canadian regional airline Porter Airlines, who have said that they are the undisclosed customer that's ordered them. They've ordered 30 of the aircraft and got an option for a further 50. They're taking the total up to 80 aircraft in total. These aircraft are part of Porter Airlines' mission to disrupt. It's to help sort of regional flights and also sort of diversify their fleet as well. Michael Deluce, the president and CEO of Porter Airlines, thinks that the E2 is a perfect fit for his airline, and said that this is a defining moment in Porter's history. Today we lay the foundation for a new and further reaching service for our customers, delivered in true Porter style and comfort. Our customers are going to love the experience on the E2 as much as we already do at Porter. So, well done to them. I can only see them getting sort of stronger. For those unfamiliar with Porter Airlines, they operate from Toronto City Airport using Dash 8s, Dash 8 Q400s. and sort of relatively unknown, but sort of come into their own. The best way to describe them, I think, is possibly, I mean, if you're going to compare them to a different airline, you would probably go with like a Logan Air type airline. So 80 aircraft for Porter Airlines.
Really good news, and I think it's I suppose it's a bit of a relief as well for Embraer, because I don't know whether they were struggling or whether it looked like they were going to struggle trying to sell this new plane, but it looks like they've it looks like they've got a decent order behind them now, and they can crack on, can't they, and push the plane out. And once people start seeing it a little bit more airlines might use the Embraer rather than just opting for the easy option and going for a Boeing or an Airbus or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's really, really good news for Embraer. That it really is.
Yeah. So as it stands, the 195 E2 is the biggest selling E2 plane of the lot. I'm still waiting for orders, I think, for the 175 E2 as well. So
yeah,
fingers crossed that gets bought. But yeah, so it is good news for Embraer, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think a lot of other smaller airlines as well, ones you don't really read about, maybe get 2 or 3 likes of, I don't know, Mid-African Airlines. I don't know names of them, to be quite honest. Even like South American local airlines, because I think Embraer, they are Brazilian, aren't they? So
Embraer are Brazilian, yeah.
Yeah. So I imagine they get a lot of business. What we don't really hear about over here, because obviously the local airlines in places like Brazil and Argentina, we don't really pay much attention to, do we? So
that's pretty much it. But yeah, that concludes the news for this week. We're now half an hour in. So there is a comment in the chat from Leo911 who says, "Where is the main man, Joe?" Joe is not here with us this week. As we said at the top of the show, Joe had some sad news of a bereavement. So Joe's taken some time away for that and will be with us again next week. So yeah, once again, sending our condolences and thoughts out to Joe and everyone else that's been affected. But seeing as we are half an hour in, let's get our guest on.
This week's special guest.
So this week's guest is a change from what we were scheduled to have, but again, that will all be discussed later on. But our guest for this evening is a regular viewer of the podcast, so instead of watching it, he is now part of it. Everybody in the chat, and of course listening to us wherever, welcome Steve Wooldridge. Steve, welcome and a very good evening to you.
Yeah, good evening. How are you both?
I'm good, thanks, Steve. Good evening to you as well.
Doing well.
Yeah, you too.
Yes, doing.
So yeah.
Hey. Have we got a bad line? Have we all?
Sorry, yeah, you were there. Sorry.
All right, yeah, we're all good. So yes, anybody in the chat's got any questions about Bournemouth Airport, which is our topic for this evening, for Steve to answer, pop them in the chat. We'll get them read out as soon as we can. But yeah, we've given you a slight introduction, Steve. So do you want to sort of just introduce yourself a bit more and let everybody know what you're about?
Yeah, so as you say, I'm brought up from Bournemouth, which sort of pre-COVID was a very sort of normal, humble regional airport with just your standard Ryanair flights, etc. But since COVID has kicked off, it's absolutely exploded into quite a busy little airport all of a sudden.
And is that through the sort of the cargo side of things?
Well, to begin with, we had BA sent a lot of 19s, 20s, 21s and 4 of the 747s down, which, well, whilst it was great to see them, it was a bit of a double-edged sword because it was sort of confirming that aviation had gone into a coma as they were being stored at Bournemouth for the summer. But from a selfish point of view, to have the aircraft you normally associate with Heathrow in your own back garden was quite incredible to see.
Yeah, I bet, because like I say, that whole period of uncertainty with sort of the airline business, and then waking up one day seeing that Bournemouth were going to get all these aircraft coming in to be stored. I mean, what was it? I mean, you're pretty much there most of the time. Was it quite a squeeze getting them in, or?
Because obviously domestic flights had stopped and the cargo flights hadn't really started yet. We parked them outside the terminal and then all down the taxiway. So when you drove past, you saw the first aircraft you saw was the Landor 747. It was just rows of sort of the mid-range smaller Airbuses. I think there was over 50 planes they sent down to us at the start of COVID.
That's quite So that's quite a fair chunk of the fleet, isn't it? Of really that got sent into storage, because they stored them all over the place, and obviously Bournemouth was sort of the one of the main places, especially in the UK anyway, for storage.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was I say there was just the day where it was just endless streams of the British Airways planes, and I think the same day the Virgin A340s arrived, which subsequently became the cargo planes for European. But at the time, you kind of sort of assumed they were just part of the storage process at Bournemouth. We didn't realise we were going to get to keep them as a permanent fixture at Bournemouth.
And are there sort of any aircraft there still?
Say again, sorry?
Is there any aircraft there still in terms of BA planes being stored there still?
No, all the British Airways left. The final one was one of the 747s actually departed as the final aircraft to leave. So they've all gone. But the sad thing was that when British Airways announced their new routes, they chose Southampton rather than Bournemouth, which was disappointing given that we'd sort of parked their planes up for them for the summer.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting. But
yeah, we got the retro A319 as well at Bournemouth, which was probably, well, apart from the 747s, was certainly my highlight. To see that there was quite special.
Yeah, I suppose if you weren't able to get up to, because of like the lockdown sort of thing, and you had all these sort of plans to catch, all of the retro jets and stuff like that British Airways had, you were kind of lucky in a way, because then it was like almost like delivered to your doorstep sort of thing.
Well, yeah, I can only describe, if you go to sort of Barcelona and you see Messi play, you kind of go, oh yeah, that's cool. And if you're down the park with your mates and Messi shows up for a kickabout, it's somewhat different.
It's a little bit of a different experience, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, you go to Heathrow and you obviously expect to see, certainly nowadays, 19s, 20s, to the point that you sort of stop photographing them during a day spotting. But yeah, to have them in your own area was really something different and special, and sort of got me into the photography really to document what was there. It was a once in a lifetime sort of opportunity to see that many there.
Yeah, very interesting. Ian, I'll hand it over to you.
I was just listening to what you were saying about all the I don't know, all the different types of just the British. Was it just British Airways who stored planes there? Were there any other kind of storage going on there? Just BA?
Well, it was primarily British Airways. Like I say, the Virgin A340s arrived, and in my mind, I was thinking, oh, we're obviously storing those, and they'll be heading back to Heathrow. But as it's turned out, they've now become a resident fixture at Bournemouth. So we sort of have Virgin planes, but yeah, the British Airways have all disappeared back to their bases now.
Yeah, that's a shame. Can you? I don't know. I mean, you've obviously been sort of spotting there through like the pandemic, and you've been there before the pandemic. And can you sort of see any sort of normality coming back to it? Can you see like a visible increase in sort of numbers coming back into airport now? Obviously it still is a little bit quiet, but can you see an improvement sort of thing?
Oh yeah, certainly. Within the last 3 or 4 months, EasyJet have started operating routes to Edinburgh, Belfast, and Liverpool.
Yeah.
So that's encouraging. Ryanair are certainly flying to probably 75% of the destinations they were. The only company that we do have at Bournemouth who haven't returned yet is Chewy. We haven't seen them return since the pandemic.
Yeah, I think they're more package holidays, aren't they, too? So I think they'd be struggling. I think more than what EasyJet. Well, I suppose they don't fly to as many destinations either. So I would imagine that's had something to do with it. What other carriers do you get in there? Is it just your EasyJet and Ryanair and TUI? Do you get anything unusual in there? Obviously, you get the 340s in, don't you? The ex-Virgin. But do you see any other unusual stuff going in there?
Well, certainly during the pandemic, we had 2 cargo jets arrived, and the first one was annoying because it arrived in the middle of the night and left in the middle of the night. And then the next time it arrived again in the middle of the night, and it was a February afternoon, and it was absolutely toweling it down. And it got to about 4, and I thought, I'm going to go home. I'm not going to wait for it. And I was probably from the airport and watched it fly over the sunroof, and I was like, well.
That's sod's law, that, isn't it? Eh? And does that not go in anymore?
No, it was just the twice that arrived, and then we had the Azure Air 767, which was again just a complete once off, and it was just through complete chance that someone had shared it on a social media post that it was heading in.
Yeah,
I managed to go down and get that arrive.
Were they just running cargo flights into Bournemouth?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, just doing all the PPE runs and things like that.
Oh yeah, the work European have done for providing the NHS with PPE is so underrated. Like during the pandemic, there was always 2 planes in the air, one going to China, one coming back from China, and it was daily. But well, thankfully, it's beginning to scale back a little bit now, because obviously the hospital numbers have thankfully decreased a little bit. So
yeah, well that's it. I mean, you sort of see things on the news and what have you, and even something as simple as the face mask, what you use to go into Asda or whatever, you don't appreciate the journey that it's actually been on with, coming from China in back of an A340, and I suppose the cost of it to the governments and things like that. But I think there's been some quite unusual aircraft movements, and I think we've sort of seen. I don't know whether we've seen a different side to aviation where we're seeing that much cargo coming into the country. You don't really appreciate how much of it does come in until you actually see less commercial passenger planes flying about, I suppose. But it's massive, isn't it? The cargo, haul in and out of this small island what we live in, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I dare say, particularly Bournemouth having European flyers probably saved it to a degree, because short of that very brief window we had before Christmas where maybe 2 or 3 flights went to Spain, there really hasn't been a lot of passenger stuff.
Yeah, no, it has been really, really hard, hasn't it? Yeah. Well, fingers crossed. Anyway, let's hope things start moving forward and what have you, and we can get to somewhere where we were before all this happened, and we can get more planes up in the air and give us something else to look at. Well, yeah,
it tells you how bad it is. The day the first Ryanair came back in, and you got excited and I'm off to take a Ryanair. Well, with respect to Ryanair, it's not something I'd go out of my way to photograph generally, but that first one back was kind of like, oh yeah, maybe a little bit of normality might be on its way back to us at this point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, Yeah, same with EasyJets and whatever. It's just bread and butter stuff, isn't it? But you're so happy to see them, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. I know. Well, it's quite exciting. I say about going down to see the Ryanair. I went one day. It was a flight from Mallorca, expecting a Ryanair and it turned out to be one of the Lauda planes, which was definitely a bit of an exciting bonus rather than the standard Ryanair.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think they've just got some. Is it Malta Air or something they call it? The with 787 Maxes. I think they've got. I think, Tom, you'll know that, won't you?
Did you just say 787 Maxes?
I do apologise. 737 Max 8. Yeah, I've got sunstroke.
Someone's been watching another channel.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Dear me. Yeah, I know what ones you're on about. Yeah, they the Malta Air ones. They the 737 Max 8s. One was delivered this week, I think, to Dublin.
Yeah, that's where I saw it. Yeah, I was looking. Yeah, it's a nice thing. Yeah, definitely.
I imagine at some point one of those will get down to Bournemouth, whether it's the Ryanair Maxes or whether it's the Malta Air ones.
Yeah, no, I might stand corrected. I certainly haven't seen the Ryanair, the Max. In fact, the only one I've seen anywhere was one of the lot ones flying into Heathrow a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm still yet to see one, but I'm hoping to kind of change that in a couple of weeks' time when I nip up to Bristol. They've got the TUI Max doing service now out of there, so hopefully. Fingers crossed I can sort of get up there, be able to catch it, and tick that off my list. So
yeah,
fingers crossed.
Yeah, no, with the sketchy history, I did make sure I was well out the flight path just in case as it arrived in.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic!
But I think they seem to have sorted all those problems out now.
Yes. So moving on. So what we'll do is we'll get onto a little bit of like Bournemouth, sort of the stuff around like the airport and stuff. So you've got the museum there. Now I've only ever been to that museum once, and that was, I mean, we're probably looking at about maybe 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, well, since you last went there, then.
I mean, from what I used to go caravan holidays and stuff down Bournemouth, and I'm fairly certain that I got taken to the museum there because I remember seeing the old is it European 737-200s?
Oh yeah, the old Palm Air that used to
Palm
operate
Air
out.
as well. Yeah. So I remember seeing them, and that's how long ago it was. And I remember just walking in there. It's a very faint memory of what I can remember because I was young. But just tell us a little bit about the museum and what it's like and what's there, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's humble, but it's good. There's probably a good couple of hours worth of stuff to see, and it's run by very enthusiastic volunteers and that. And you've got the cockpit of the Vulcan. There's a Lightning there, Hawker Hunter, Jaguar, and say the 737. And the thing with Bournemouth Airport Museum, which I've never experienced anywhere else, is you can sit in the cockpits. You can go everywhere, and they absolutely don't mind you doing it. The only thing they don't let you sit in down there is the Jaguar, but apart from that, you can sit in all the aircraft. A lot of it's sort of parts of aircraft, like the front half, because of the space available. But it's still fascinating to be able to sit in a Lightning cockpit or the Vulcan particularly is like how they managed to get 4 or 5 people in one of those is incredible, given how tight it is when you go up in the one at Bournemouth there. Yeah,
it's like I said, I can only briefly, like very, very briefly remember what happened. I think there must have been, I'm just trying to remember when the European 747 sort of came in to begin with. It must have been like early 2000s, I think, and I remember seeing some of those there. So it was around sort of that time that I last went, but I must sort of try and get back up there again because I've seen a lot of people go there and a lot of people give it a lot of praise. So definitely sort of want to go on.
You can't the passion and enthusiasm that the people that run it have for it, and it's not Duxford, but if you appreciate that it's not Duxford, you'll enjoy it when you go there for sure.
Yeah, Duxford's another good one, but I don't think if you were to compare the two, I think that's a little bit unfair to sort of to compare it to sort of like your Yeoviltons and things like that. So I think you just got to go into these places with like an open mind. I think is probably the best way of putting it.
But yeah, like I say, you won't go anywhere more interactive than the Bournemouth Museum, where you're allowed to go in so much and see so much up close. I've never been anywhere else where they let you do that. That's for sure.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, it sounds like the when you were rhyming those different types of planes off what are down there. It sort of reflects a lot of the history what the airport's got, and a lot of the planes what you mentioned down there. They actually built like components for these specific planes as well back in their past. So, what sort of history has it got? Has it got a massive history? Is it
the Bournemouth Airport itself?
Yeah, Bournemouth Airport. Yeah.
Certainly, as a World War II hub, it was very central to what was going on, sort of in the south coast, and there was a lot of other little airfields, sort of in the New Forest, and some of them still remain there. But when I was younger, Bournemouth Airport was pretty much just a night flight to the Channel Islands for post before probably mid-90s, when Ryanair arrived and gave it a little bit more credibility as an actual passenger airport. But it's always had a cargo feel to it compared to a real passenger hub until more recent years, that's for sure.
Yeah. It's definitely got an interesting history. It's got a really, really, reading through its backstory and things like that, where it was, Boak's the main transatlantic airport back in late 40s. It was Boak's transatlantic route, weren't it? That was the airport of choice, weren't it, before Heathrow started doing transatlantic flights?
Oh well, I wasn't aware. I'll have to have a little look up of sort of the long history of it, but it's certainly interesting. But it used to be.
It definitely is. Yeah, it was something I was reading earlier on about it. And in 1946, Pan Am opened a scheduled New York to London service using the DC-4. The journey time was 17 hours and 40 minutes, which is absolutely horrific by today's standards, I would imagine, but that's where they were, I suppose, with aviation back then. Yeah, and it was also the starting point for the first England to Australia land plane service, which took 3 days. So, yeah.
I think I'd lose patience on that particular journey.
Oh, imagine that. I think back then in golden days of travel, when you see the old footage of them sat on these old DC-4s and things like that, and they get silver service, don't they? And they've got curtains up, haven't they? And they're all sat smoking and God knows what, and drinking champagne and what have you. I think it was a nicer experience than what it is today, I suppose. But I don't think I'd like to be sat up there for 17 hours or for 3 days. Definitely not.
Yeah, no, that's quite enough for me, I think. To be quite honest.
Definitely.
Not a chance.
Definitely.
Yeah, not a chance.
So, anything to add, Tom?
Well, no, I was just going to move on to obviously the situation that the world's in with the pandemic and everything, we've been deprived of the things such as air shows and stuff. And one air show, which is down sort of towards where you are, Steve, is the Bournemouth Air Show. Do you want to just talk a little bit about that and sort of give us an insight as to what kind of air show it is?
Oh yeah, so this year it's the 2nd to the 5th of September, I believe, and you get the kind of the usual stuff like the red arrows and what have you. But I think this year we've got the Battle of Britain flights, the Eurofighter, which I have to say is a particular favourite. the well, I hope I get this right. The Draken Saab, is it? The Saab Draken.
Yeah, Saab Draken. Yeah, Draken.
Yeah, they got one of those. But yeah, the air show. Well, it's one of my fondest memories because where are we? 4 or 5 years ago, it was the final flight of the Vulcan. So to be able to say I saw the famous HAL over the seafront was pretty special.
Yeah, I think I've seen footage of that myself on YouTube and what have you. Yeah, flying in over cliff tops and things like that. Was that the one?
Yeah, no, I could well imagine it would be. The only slight irritation with the air show, people show up for the Reds and they'll leave straight after the Reds, and you're like, what about all this other great stuff that you're not hanging around for?
Yeah,
you need to be there for the full experience, don't you?
It's like a lack of appreciation, I think, as well for sort of everything else, really. Because if you're going to go to an air show, if you're going to pay, or I don't know, but like I've seen people do that for sort of the main like air shows and stuff like that. So whereas for you guys it's sort of over the seafront, if you go to one that's sort of land based and you get them taken off and departing from there, I've seen people go in there that do the exact same. They'll turn up, watch the Red Arrows or watch something that they've wanted to see for a long time, and then they'll go again. And it's like, well, why did you bother? why did you bother? You could just watch that on YouTube, sort of thing.
The effort of getting into town on an air show weekend. Once I'm there, I'm not going home. Put it that way. It's it takes a while to get in, but we've last 6 weeks we've had the Reds arrive at Bournemouth twice, and it's always good because they'll come in, they'll put the smoke on, they'll go up and brake, and then come back into land. And to see them up close is really good because whilst at Bournemouth they do stay a fair way out, just in case obviously anything goes awry and that.
Yeah, they are fantastic to see, aren't they? They're always, you never see them out of place, do you? Ever?
No.
They're absolutely perfect, aren't they, all the time? Yeah, they're really, really well disciplined pilots, definitely. Yeah, they're brilliant.
Well, I think unfortunately Bournemouth's got a special bond with the Reds because a few years ago we lost a pilot at Bournemouth, and ever since then they've been sort of even more welcome and in the hearts of certainly the locals than they were previously.
Yeah. It'll have a special place in I suppose in the Reds' history as well, won't it? Now it's unfortunately for wrong reasons, but Bournemouth's always going to be that place where they lost one, isn't it? So,
but yeah, if you're ever in, they did build a fantastic tribute to him on the cliff top, and it's 3 or 4 Red Arrows with like metal smoke, and then each one's got like a coloured lens, and then the sun obviously shines through them. And it is very nice that they done that.
Yeah, it sounds really nice. That sounds like a nice tribute. Definitely. So, you get you'll get your BBF, like your Battle of Britain flight. You get your Red Arrows, your Typhoons, and whatever. So, what other stuff do you get? Do you get any older stuff in? Like I don't know. I'm just trying to think of the name of them. You buy planes and things like that from an era gone by. Do you get that kind of stuff at Bournemouth Air Show as well?
There is biplanes, but they're more sort of stunt biplanes with smoke and that. But
wing walkers and what have you.
Yeah, up the road, probably 20-30 miles from where I am, there's a little airfield called Compton Abbas, and it's basically a World War II museum, but everything still flies. So there's tiger moths, the chipmunks, the Harvard still flies down there. So you can still go to a little airfield and see the World War II planes operational. It's very, very, very good down there.
It does sound quite nice. Is that just like is it sort of, I don't know, I'd call them hobby pilots, where obviously the private pilots have got these old planes and they fly them up on a weekend or something like that when weather's nice. Is it that kind of thing?
No, it's exactly that. grass strip, and you can pay to go up in them and have the experience of having a little flight out, like over Salisbury, over the seafront and whatever. And it's always very popular. Whenever I've been up there, it's always got plenty of doing and what have you.
Yeah. Have you ever been up in one?
No, but
Would you?
but I had a little look online, and there's a weight limit which I might be ever so slightly over the top of.
Okay, right, fair enough. Then we'll not go there then.
Only by like an ounce or two, maybe.
Right, yeah, fair enough.
You need to be trimmed to go up there, and unfortunately, the beer and the curry's caught up with me these days, so I'd have to lose it. But yeah, it'd certainly be interesting to go up in one of the older World War II planes, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You see like Spitfires and Hurricanes and what have you flying around, don't you? And you see like GoPro videos of these people sat inside. I mean, it's an absolutely fantastic experience, isn't it? In these old Second World War planes. I've never fancied going up in something like an old biplane or something like that, because they're sort of open top, aren't they? And I thought, no, I just can't see it being a pleasant experience, to be quite honest.
Oh, you wouldn't do that for the rush? Because I would. I'd go up just purely for the rush of it.
Oh, would you?
Yeah, I mean, if the thing is, you can cross it off as an experience as well, to say that you've been in you're still sort of kind of in an open top car sort of thing, but you're in a biplane and you're a couple of thousand feet, and I think it's just unrestricted that way. I think, and I think sort of. Yeah, you can't sort of rule it out unless you have your reasons, like fear of like safety and stuff. But 100%, if you said to me like tomorrow, go up in a swordfish, or go up in a an open, like a an open
tiger moth or something like that,
I would snap your hand off and go, yep, I'll be there tomorrow.
Oh, would you? All right, no, it's not for me.
Well, if you want to see how brave you really are on the open air experience, I think they do wing walks down there, and they strap you in and let you stand on top of the plane. I'm ruling that out.
Well, I certainly wouldn't do that. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen some of these wing walkers, and I certainly haven't got the figure for it.
Oh no, my cheeks would be flapping like a dog with its head out the window.
Yeah. I don't suppose you'd look good in a bikini either, would you? Stood on top of it.
Yeah, for another day, maybe that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, leave that for another day.
I would get cocky and spin round, but then forget to stop myself. So I'd just be like a second propeller sort of thing.
A second propeller.
Yeah.
Dear me. Let's get away from that for the time being, and let's jump on to sort of like the spotting locations and stuff in and around Bournemouth Airport for anybody that might be looking to go. Just purely because of the obviously the A340-600 operations that are going in and out at the moment. Tell us a little bit about some of the locations there and how easily accessible they are.
Yeah, well, Bournemouth is certainly you can get either end of the runways. The western end, the fence is probably only 5 foot tall, so you can get a camera over the fence for the aircraft coming at you, and the opposite end is there's no fence, but it's not quite as kind of carefree as that sounds. You'd have to go on a Indiana Jones style adventure through a river and mud flats and avoiding adders and stuff to actually be able to break in. But yeah, for the two end shots, you can get either end of the runways, and then there's a golf course sort of halfway down, which is very good for side-on shots, and there's also a big open field behind the eastern end, which is very good for sort of the final approaches of everything. So there's plenty of locations, and the security are generally pretty handy. There's only really there's an industrial estate. They'll always chase you out of that, but apart from that, sort of everything's fair game, to be honest, down at Bournemouth.
So easily accessible then in terms of wanting to get sort of down the runway shots and a couple of side-on shots, just not to go down places such as the sort of the industrial estate that you mentioned. Why is the industrial estate sort of different to sort of the ends of the runway?
I think purely because when like the Reds came in, it was absolute carnage and people parked everywhere. So I think Bournemouth have always said the industrial estates are purely for people on business within the industrial estates, and everywhere else you can go and watch. Because I imagine like trucks and people and that were getting blocked in, and the businesses were getting fed up, so they just stopped you going in there at all at any time, unless you're actually there on actual business.
Yeah,
that sounds fair enough. I mean, it sounds like there's plenty of places anyway without having to go to industrial estate, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it's pretty good. And,
yeah,
you don't get any hassle. I think security have only ever spoken to me once down there, and it was there's a place, and I describe it as a grey area where it's a public footpath, but you are right at the end of the runway without a fence. But security kind of go, well, if anything goes wrong or something falls off the plane, you're in line for it here. So I think it's more safety than them being a little bit picky about sort of where you're going rather than anything else.
Yeah, but it's nice that they can talk to you about it in a civil sort of manner as well, and deal with it that way, where you'd get all the security, patrols and what have you, who are pretty much, you can't be on there sort of thing. So it sounds like they sound like a nice bunch.
Yeah, well, I think with respect to him, being a security guard at Bournemouth is probably a fairly easy gig, like compared to Heathrow or Gatwick.
Yeah, I suppose it would be, wouldn't it? But I suppose they've got to take the job seriously as well, haven't they? At the same time, so yeah.
Of course, yeah. Back in the day, I say about the industrial estate, there used to be a little cafe. It was a flying club, but you didn't have to be a member, and that was absolutely fantastic because you could sit out, have some dinner, have a drink, and watch the planes sort of really close on their takeoff and landing. I certainly remember going there when I dropped Mum and Dad off once for holiday to make sure they'd actually gone.
Yeah, similar.
To make sure they'd actually gone on holiday, make sure they got on a plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's something very similar to that over in I don't know if it's probably changed now, but Cardiff, there's a flying club there, and you can sort of sit outside and watch the planes and stuff as long as you sort of buy something from them. So it's like a little sort of something for something, I suppose. And I remember doing that a couple of years ago, and you saw all these like planes coming in, and you could sit on the balcony. You could have I went there for, I think it was like breakfast or something. You could have like full English or full Welsh breakfast, but English breakfast. Like cup of tea and everything, and you just watch these like planes coming in and things like that. Really, really cool. Like really cool. And you had like the flying club, obviously, with the planes down below, so you could always see like who was going to go into them, who was starting them up, and it was noisy and things like that, and you're sort of in your element that way. So if you find a flying club that's a bit like that, then I think you're quite lucky. Even if you just got to buy something rather than paying an entry sort of thing. If you just go in there and go, right, well, I might as well have this, and we can go and we can do this, that, and everything else, and then rather than them sort of kick you out and go, no, that's we're totally not doing that sort of thing, because we know what you're here for, sort of thing. So props to anybody that has a flying club near them that is like that.
Yeah, sadly the Bournemouth one doesn't exist now. They had I think the main sewer or something collapsed, and it wasn't financially viable to fix it. So that facility's not with us. But it used to be brilliant when it was there, obviously.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not enough places like that, is there, for spotters? And I don't think it's huge business for them, is it? But it's business for them, isn't it? And it's a shame that these places do have to close.
Yeah, no, it was very good. I think there was a little bit of not needle. That's not the right word, but I think when it used to be a paid club and it was originally a flying club exclusively for pilots, I think when they opened it up to the public, there was a few of the older members who weren't overly thrilled with it. But I think you're always going to get that sort of pushback, aren't you? Unfortunately.
Yeah, of course you are. Yeah. The older members, they don't like change, do they?
Well, no. Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Hey, if you ever do come to Bournemouth, certainly for the 340s, it's worth checking flight radar for arrivals, because departures are so all over the place. There's no rhyme or reason. One day it could go at 12, and the next day it can go at 4. So if you ever fancy Bournemouth, I would recommend arrivals rather than departures for the
for the 340. Do you think that's going to be more of do you think that's going to fizzle out in time, sort of thing? You know, the closer we get to the end of this mess what we're in at the moment, do you think it'll sort of, you know, go away? Do you think it's going to be like maybe a southern cargo hub, for instance?
Oh yeah, well certainly New York is delivering Amazon packages, so all the time Amazon exists. Obviously that route's going to be operational.
All right, I weren't aware that they were doing that. I thought it was just PPE stuff, to be quite honest. I didn't realise they were actually doing other freight as well.
Yeah, no, New York, they take cargo going and they bring cargo back. The China ones, they leave Bournemouth empty and they arrive back full with the PPE and what have you.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I saw an interview with Paul Stoddart, the guy who owns European.
Oh, okay.
And his what he was basically saying was they were looking at expanding and starting routes to Melbourne and to other places. So obviously it's going to tail off of the NHS work at some point, but it does seem like still going to be additional routes, and the 340s are here to stay for a good while longer.
Which would be good news.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
To see a 340 leaving what is basically a regional airport is just incredible. Like even in oil, the sound of the Trents is really quite something. And then obviously when they take off, it's incredible. The noise goes straight through you and out the other side when they're taking off and what have you.
They are fantastic. Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, they are, aren't they?
As long as sort of 747s and things like that. I think if European cargo can keep them around for a long time, and like I say, if they are looking to expand and stuff, they can only look to take on more, because the fleet consists at the moment, if I'm correct, of sort of older, the old Virgin Atlantic A340s, and I believe there's one like an ex-Etihad one in there, if I'm correct.
Yeah, there is the Etihad, which had been grounded for a few weeks. It had an engine issue, but it seems to be operational again. But yeah, the Virgin ones, one of them, it's only the Virgin off the tail and the sides. Everything else is still the same. It's still got the splash of blue on the tail. It's still got the Union Jacks on the wingtips. So, all intents and purposes, it's still very much a Virgin Atlantic aircraft.
Mm. Yeah, I must get down to see them. Is there quite a few there then, in terms of like what's based there at the moment, or is it just like the odd one or two?
Operationally, there's 4 consistently flying, and then I think there's certainly 2 or 3 others, and one which is currently in Dubai having its sort of, well, not a refit, the opposite, but taking everything out of it to make it cargo ready.
Yeah.
So we're going to end up with probably 5 or 6 of them eventually.
Yeah, to me that sounds like an expansion is definitely on its way then.
So yeah, and say with A330s started arriving. We've had 2 within the last week. The first one went to China and ended up at Stansted, and then one arrived yesterday morning from a smaller airport near New York that came in from.
Oh, okay. Very interesting.
So yeah, it's cargo-wise, it's definitely looking up at Bournemouth, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Do you never see the likes of DHL and UPS and people like that?
I've never seen them at Bournemouth. No, they seem to stick to London, Stansted. Heathrow, Stansted, East Midlands, don't they?
Yeah. It's a main hub sort of thing.
Yeah, I think sort of more than flying to Bournemouth or whatever.
The main hubs.
Yeah, I mean, I think because you've got a decent length of a runway now, haven't you, and what have you? And I think geographically it's situated in a really, really good place to not just to service like sort of the south and the southwest of England, but you've also got it's a relatively short hop across the Channel Islands and things like that as well, isn't it? So I think it's in a really good location for stuff like that.
And obviously, anything that needs to go further can be taken over to Southampton docks or whatever, and they can send them over to wherever it needs to go, I suppose, from that point.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, never thought of that as well. Yeah, you got the docks there as well. Yeah, really, really good place. It's quite an interesting place.
Yeah, it does sound. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been there for. I've been there for about a good 20 years or so, so I've got to refresh my memory of it and sort of get down there as soon as I can, really. But yeah, we'll get on to the sort of the last topic, really, before we sort of begin to wrap up this evening's show. So in terms of flights, so we were talking during the week, and we had a list through of sort of the flights that you've been on. Just sort of run us through a couple of them and what experiences sort of you've had through the flights that you've been on.
Oh yeah, so the first passenger flight I went on was Bournemouth to just across to Dublin, and to be honest, the experience of that flight put me off a little bit, purely because some idiot had been poorly in their sick bag and then put it back in the seat pocket, and just that kind of disrupted me for the rest of that flight.
I bet he did.
Yeah, first time flying when you're not overly sure on things, and someone does that, it's not what you need, is it?
Not really. Oh dear. Oh, good job you didn't need to use it.
Well, yeah, no, quite. I think something had happened. Like, it was the world's tiniest bit of turbulence, and because we were friends, we were messing about, and I think I probably took it out, like, to pretend to be poorly in it, and there it was.
And somebody already beat you to it.
Yeah, I'm glad it. Yeah, only a 50 hop across, I tell you. Yeah, no, that wasn't good. But apart from that, Alicante from Bournemouth is always very convenient, like a 2-hour flight, and you're obviously back indoors within 10 minutes of landing and what have you. But the best flight, I don't know if either of you ever flown from London City Airport.
No.
It's like the start of EastEnders or the end of EastEnders, you know, flying over the Thames and what have you into the airport. And we flew to Milan on what I believe was an RJ100, and there was meant to be 50 odd business passengers that didn't arrive. So the flight over, there was only 4 or 5 of us actually on the flight, so we got treated as business all the way across, which was
yeah, but that were brilliant, weren't it?
Oh yeah, no, I was quite happy to stay on there. It was like a hour and a half visit to the Ritz in the sky. It was brilliant.
Yeah, but it was a bit of a brilliant. I bet just taking off as well, because it's quite a steep climb out of London City, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. It's well, as you know, it's only a short runway, and if you get it wrong either way, you're getting wet. So
absolutely, yeah. Did you fly back into London City as well?
Yeah, we did. Coming out of Milan, there was very bizarrely, some kind of David Beckham lookalike conference. So the whole plane was full of folks who looked vaguely like David Beckham. They had highlight hair in curtains at the time. So
yeah.
I
bet that was a sight to see.
Yeah, certainly some had obviously their mates had gone, you look like David Beckham, when clearly they look nothing like him.
No.
London City, you go past Big Ben, the Millennium Wheel, and all that, St Paul's, and you're sort of almost at touching distance. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, I bet it was. I bet it was really, really good. Yeah. Well, what I mean, I've always wanted to fly out to Blackpool, but I live in Preston, so. But just looking at where you live from above, and flying out of your own regional airport, sort of thing. But that's quite an experience, because you see everything from a different perspective, don't you? You know, your own patch, sort of thing, from above. I bet that's quite interesting.
Johnny, one of the A340 pilots, he happened to stick a photo on the other day that he'd taken on his approach into Bournemouth, and it was like, oh, there's my house. Like,
yeah.
I'm not right in Bournemouth, but I didn't realise as the crow flies just how close to the sea I actually live until I saw the.
Until you send the photograph. Yeah, that's brilliant.
But yeah, no, it is interesting. Coming out of Bournemouth, obviously, you get the coast one side and sort of the New Forest and sort of the countryside the other side. So it's a pleasant trip out of Bournemouth every time.
Yeah, I bet it is. Yeah, it sounds like a really, really nice flight out. When you get decent weather as well down there, so you're going to get relatively good takeoff and landings as well, aren't you? More often than not.
Well, yeah, you say that. There's been a couple of times I come into Bournemouth in crosswinds, because when it does blow, it definitely blows down there. So,
actually, but it does. Yeah, it comes in off channel, doesn't it? I suppose.
You're hanging on to your seats when you're looking down at the ground one minute and looking up at the sky at the next, and you're thinking, oh well.
Yeah. It's a good job they know what they're doing, isn't it? I mean, God, to be able to do something like that and land something in any kind of crosswind situation, it takes some skill.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I say, apart from that, there was a trip to Alicante last time I went, and we hit the jet stream. That was I ended up wearing beer and red wine and all sorts over myself. Yeah, it wasn't ideal.
No, I only ever experienced turbulence going over at Pyrenees, going to Spain, and that were quite looking out at wings. They had a wing seat, and I remember looking out at winger and watching wings flapping like a seagull and thinking, Jesus, I think this is it. You know, yeah. Yeah, it's not very pleasant, is it? But they're safe, aren't they? So experience worse than that.
Yeah,
it's always when you're in a plane and it's taken off, it feels really steep, and the climb feels really steep. But when you're on the ground watching it, it's actually a lot more subtle than it feels when you're actually on the aircraft. And I imagine the same sort of for turbulence as well.
Yeah, you don't really see turbulence from ground, do you?
No, but yeah. I think,
you have to sit on it, don't you, to appreciate it.
Yeah.
That turbulence you had, Steve, was that going out of Alicante or going to Alicante?
It was going in. It was sort of mid France, and there had been thunderstorms, so I was already thinking, it's not going to be the nicest journey I've ever been on. And then I say we were getting buffered around and thrown around or whatever, and to be fair, the air stewards were sitting there laughing with each other, and I thought, well, if they're cracking a joke, then I should probably not worry too much. If they're looking concerned, I might join in with them.
Well, at least you looked the part when you got to Alicante, so.
Yeah, covered in beer and wine. Yeah. Must have thought, here we go, someone's off the Benidorm.
Yeah. Beer and red wine, it can only be a tourist.
Yeah.
So, no, that's fine. Any sort of long-haul flights you've been on at all?
The only real long haul I've been on was actually on the A340-600, which was Heathrow to Newark, New York.
Oh, lovely!
And the takeoff out of Newark was sensational, because it was a night flight, and as you come up, obviously all of Manhattan's lit up and whatever. So you spent all week walking the streets, and then as your final goodbye, you get to see it from above, which is pretty special coming out of Newark.
Wow, I can imagine that being sort of quite something.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it if you ever go to fly into Newark. because just for that, I think JFK sort of almost points the wrong way, if that makes sense, rather than Newark, which runs parallel to it.
Fantastic. Wonderful.
So,
yeah, wicked. Right, I think that is going to sort of start to wrap the evening up. It does go very quick. The fact that we've been going for an hour and 20 minutes now.
An hour and 23.
Very, very quick hour and 20 minutes. But yes, we'll begin to wrap things up. Understandably, because of the weather, we've had no sort of chat, but that's fine. The weather's nice outside, and sort of not many people dropping in to sort of watch or anything. But again, that's fine. It's understandable because the weather is pretty nice out there. So that's absolutely fine. But if you do end up watching this when you're back or anything, big hello to you anyway. But yes, so what we're going to do is we will start to wrap the show up. And what we do at this stage, as you know, Steve, seeing as you're a regular viewer, we start to do some shout-outs and give some shout-outs to people and take the time to show some appreciation. So do you want to start and give some shout-outs to people that you might want to say hello to?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start off with a young chap called Isaac who spots at Bournemouth, whose ambitions of being a pilot, and I absolutely don't doubt that he'll make it because he's got his head screwed on. A very good friend of mine, Emily, who's had a particularly tough time of it recently, so love to hear and thoughts with you. And then finally to yourself, Ian, and Jer, particularly this night. Thank you for always putting on a good show. Like Sundays night's always a fairly miserable time, so it's nice to have something to look forward to, and thank you for having me on this week.
Oh, absolutely. It's our pleasure. We know Sunday nights Sunday nights are one of those where it's like, working week again. But if we can try and sort of perk people up for it, then it's at least it's something that we can do. So it's hard to believe we've been doing this now for, if you exclude the week that we didn't do it last week, 16, which is technically about 4 months or so, 16 weeks.
16 weeks, it's about 4 months now, yes.
4 months or so, it's crazy to think how quickly the time's gone. I remember sitting here going, I could do a podcast, and I could do this, and now all of a sudden this is how far we've got, and looking back at all the guests that we've had on as well, it is quite it's quite something. So I'm happy. So yes, hopefully we can bring some sort of joy and positivity to a miserable Sunday evening, knowing that everyone's back to work tomorrow. Like myself, I have an interesting day tomorrow, but that could be saved for maybe next week.
That'll be a podcast on its own.
That could be a podcast on its own, yes. Ian, you.
Yup. What?
You. It's your turn now.
All right, yeah, fair enough.
So
yeah, no.
My mind just went you, and I was like, okay, I'm sure he'll get that.
Yeah. I just thank Steve for the podcast, and it's been really interesting, and I like it when, rather than you get people on, who work for airlines and things like that, but it's nice to speak to somebody who lives the other side of the country, what we all live in, and hear about somewhere like Bournemouth Airport, which you see the A340 flying in, you see the 340 flying out, you think fantastic, but you don't know anything about the place. But then you have a guest on like Steve, and you get to learn about the place and learn the history of the place, and learn other aspects of that type of place, and I find that really, really interesting. So yeah, brilliant, Steve. Thanks very much for coming tonight, and for you as well, Tom, for letting me co-host it this week. And
pleasure.
Hopefully Joe will be back next week, and everything goes all right for him. So if you're listening, Joe, I've kept your seat warm for you.
Getting paid for it as well. No, he's not.
Yeah.
No, that's fair enough. And I'll do some shout outs here as well. First of all, any key workers, NHS, and any sort of health services around the world. Things are getting a little bit tricky in terms of numbers, especially in this country. But fingers crossed we can sort of nip that in the bud and work together to sort of bring it back down again, and try and find an end to this rotten kind of time that we're having at the minute. But fingers crossed for that. So yeah, big shout out to healthcare workers and any sort of key workers around the world. Secondly, to Ian, who done a fantastic job co-hosting again this evening and filling in for Jer. He'll start to get worried, I'm sure, but no, I mean, you've done well and everything that was asked of. So big shout out to you. Big shout out to
boss.
No problem. Big shout out to you, Steve, because you are one of our regular listeners. I'm trying to think which episode it was that you tuned into to begin with. It was a long time ago.
9.
Yeah, something. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think, but it was a long time ago, and you sort of stuck with us throughout, and here you are on the show. So it's been fantastic having you on. And like I say, not many of the regional airports or anything like that get a nod by anybody really, in terms of say like live streamers or just sort of just anybody in general. It's always the main airports that get looked at. So to see a place like Bournemouth, who's had an interesting, the airport's had an interesting sort of 18 months with all the storage planes and the A340 600 introductions and things like that. It's nice to kind of hear sort of a background story of an airport that doesn't really get looked at. So yeah,
I think it's definitely an airport to keep an eye on as well, because I think it's it's getting up there again, isn't it? It had its heyday back in, I think it was 2000s, weren't it? And it sort of then passenger numbers started falling and things like that. But it seems to be on its way back up again. So that's really, really good news.
Yes. So so big shout out to you, Steve, and of course a big thank you as well. But yes, that will sort of do it for this week. I'm hoping the weather's crap next week, just so we can get more people. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm joking. People will listen and watch as and when. But next week we will have so what we've done this week in terms of so Steve would have been with us next week, and we would have had Johnny, the A340 pilot, with us this week. But we swapped that around because Johnny got called out on the New York run today. So next week he'll be with us because he's on holiday from working. So he'll definitely be with us next week, and looking forward to getting sort of the other side of the fence sort of view on obviously the 340 600 operations and things like that. So it should be good fun next week. So hopefully everybody can join us for next week. This episode will be on Spotify if you wish to listen to it back wherever you go from tomorrow. I'd say about 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. It will be up and ready. I do it sooner, but I'm working. But yes, other than that, that is going to pretty much end the show. So a big thank you to everybody that did come in and watch, even if you didn't interact. It's still nice for you to come in and spare, even if it is a few five minutes or so, just to come in and show a little bit of support. Yeah, we will be back again next Sunday evening, 7 p.m. UK time, for episode 17. Oh, also, at the same time, I completely forgot to shout out Joe as well. So, my bad. So, yeah, Joe, if you do listen to this the whole way through and you get to this point, we are all thinking of you through this time, and also thinking of Danielle as well. So, yes. But yeah, that'll do it this evening. So 7 p.m. next week, we will be here again for episode 17. So we shall now say our goodbyes, and we'll start with Steve to say goodbye.
Well, thanks again for having me, and I look forward to watching the future episodes. See you soon.
Fantastic. Ian?
Fantastic. Yep. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for letting me do Jer's job tonight, and thanks, Steve, for an interesting show. Definitely.
Fantastic. And from myself, continue to look after yourselves and continue to stay safe. And we'll see you next week, 7 p.m. But for now, take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.